Hi, welcome to In 5 Minutes. We were doing IO management. One of the part of IO management is to understand the evolution of IO functionality or IO management itself. We started with the first basic concept for management, that's where CPU, that is a central processing unit, controlled everything. During this stage, the entire load of managing, handling access was given to the CPU, created a very slow processing and a limited abilities of data transfer. We wanted something beyond this. They created the second option in terms of evolution, where CPU, then they added something which we call as device controller, which was added along with the CPU, and this device controller would control the peripherals connected. This created a good idea because the utilization of CPU was limited, but still the CPU had to continuously wait in order to handle device controller, get the data, read or write. That means there was a continuous utilization of CPU in some percentages to handle peripherals, although it was not equivalent to what we had earlier, which was near about 100% if we say. This was still taking around 30 to 40% of CPU utilization in handling any of the resources. It became better than the earlier version, but created one more issue. That is, still we wanted better and better. As we talk about today, if you go a few years back, optical media was the best thing. Today, we generally don't operate on optical media other than installing some new softwares. Most of the thing is done by a flash drive or a pen drive. So basically we are changing. Our drives, our devices are becoming faster. Using the same technique again and again would limit transfer rate and access rate. So in the third evolution, what they did was, along with the CPU, they created a complete IO controller. This IO controller would control peripherals. And one more change what they did was, CPU would only come into picture and interact using interruption, making one big advantage that the utilization of CPU was just 10 to 20% max, that too when it is truly needed. Most of the time IO controller would handle all the communication. Soon this became a good idea, but working with CPU and IO controller, they wanted something beyond. They wanted to improve in something what they wanted in speed. So they gave the third option, and evolution made third plus one new thing, created the fourth option, which was CPU with DMA access, that is direct memory access, communicating with IO controllers and communicating with peripherals. The basic idea behind this was fairly simple. The CPU would go to DMA, DMA would go to IO controller, and IO controller would go to peripherals. Now, the biggest advantage was CPU hardly is used to 10%, because now all the access requests would be forwarded to DMA, which is a direct memory access, which would communicate internally with the IO controller, and that IO controller would communicate with the needed peripherals for any kind of a transfer. So evolution of IO functionality started with the CPU controlling, then shifted to device controller, then shifted to IO controller, then shifted to finally DMA. Many of us might think one question, that why DMA and what exactly DMA would do. Answer to that is fairly simple. The general way of using data with reference to CPU would be something similar to what I am showing now. Consider we have some hard disk drive, let's call it HDD. The data is not directly given to the CPU most of the time. What happens is, this data is first taken to the controller, let's call it drive controller, then device driver, then to the memory, and then to the CPU. Now when we work with the entire hierarchy, it might happen that the CPU involvement is just to copy it from one folder to another. In this scenario also, consider I have two folders, one folder which I am showing with the green and another which I am showing with the red. Even in this case, if we just want to copy the data, it will reach all the way to disk driver, to memory, to CPU, and then as a part of copying, it will again reach to the other side. Now, with DMA access coming into picture, what we did? Why CPU needs to be involved? So they did one simple job. Instead of this, they created to handle this thing DMA, which is a direct memory access. So we would be technically cutting down CPU from unneeded transfer, and those transfer would be controlled via DMA. Still, the major control remains under the CPU and it is manageable. So that's it, guys. This is the entire evolution of IO functionality from CPU controlling all to DMA having the major control under CPU itself. That's it. Thanks for watching this video.